in this video, we want to go to the Open Weather Map API documentation to see how we can get the required data that we need to display. So to do that, we go to openweathermap.org. So you just type openweathermap.org. Then it will take us to this page. Here we have the Open Weather Map where we can get current weather data and weather forecasts of any city. But before we can use the Open Weather Map API, we need to sign up and get an API key. For me, I already signed up and I have an API key. So for you, you can just go back, click on this sign up button, sign up with a valid email and password, which it will, after signing up, it will log you in or sign you in automatically. Then when you click on the sign in, it will take you to this page. Here, you can just click on the API keys. You will see the default API key being given to you. So for me, I already have an API key. I'll just copy this API key. So for us to use this, we just go to the API link we have here, click on it. Then it's going to display this page. Here it says our weather API is simple, clear, and free. We also offer higher levels of support. Okay, so it says to access the API, you need to sign up for an API key. So I believe you've done that. You have your API key. Now, what we are only going to be interested in right now is just this current weather data. But you can use this API to get current weather data, 5-day, 3-hour forecast, 16-day daily forecast, then as well as historical data and other data as well. But what we are only interested in is this current weather data. Now, here it says access current weather data for any location, including over 200,000 cities around the world. Then it says current weather data is frequently updated based on global models and data from more than 40,000 weather stations. Data is available in JSON, XML, or HTML format. So the format we are going to be getting our data is the JSON format. So we are only using the JavaScript object notation format. Now to start with, let's click on this API doc here for this current weather data. So later on your own, you can decide to explore this 5-day, 3-hour forecast and 16-day daily forecast. So we click on the API doc. Now it's going to take us to this page. Now the next thing we want to do is says access current. We've already read about this. Now, we can make API calls by city name, by city ID, by geographic coordinates, which are longitude and latitude, and also we can make API calls by zip code. But what for our application, we're only going to be making API calls by city name, because here we have a message that says we recommend to call API by city ID to get unambiguous results for your city. Here, for me, I wouldn't use this because it will require you to know the city ID of every city that you want to get the current weather data. So it's just too much work. The best thing is just the city name, which is much more easier. So we're going to be making the API calls by city name. As I said earlier, you need your API key to use this API. Now, we can make API calls, as I said, by city name, city ID, geographic locations, zip code. Then if you scroll down here, it says weather parameters in API response. We have the JSON format, the XML format, which are the two major formats, but we are only interested in the JSON format. Now, if you make an API call, this is how the response is going to be. We have it will be returned in this format, which is JavaScript objects. Then inside the object, we have other objects whereby we can get the data. Now, if you go to the parameters, we have the longitude, the latitude, we have the weather main, the weather description, the weather icon. Then we can get the temperature of the city, the pressure, the humidity, minimum temperature, maximum temperature, sea level, ground level, wind speed, wind direction, the clouds, rain, snow. Then we have the type, the message, country, sunrise, sunset, name, coordinates. These are the data that we can return. Now to see this work, to see this data, let's go back to this top. We can copy this link here. Now if you see here, it says the API call is being made by city name. Then also you can make the API call by city name and country code, but we are only going to be making use of the city name. So we can copy this out here. Let's come here, let's copy this out, then go to our browser and we paste what we have. But now for us to use this, we just go back to our page here, get our API key. So we copy this API key we have here. So without this API key, we cannot get the result. So we copy the API key. Now to add the API key, you add an ampersand sign. I already have it here. Then app ID equal, you paste your API key. So here we make the call. We want to get the result for the city London, and we add the API key that we have. Then we press enter. So it's going to return the result. Now by default, if we don't specify the mode, it's going to return the result in JSON format. But if we specify the mode as XML, then it's going to return the result in XML format. So here we can just add another ampersand and say mode equals to XML. Now let's see the results. Here we can see that the result is being returned in XML format, but we are not making use of this XML format. Rather, we are using the JSON. We can just remove this so that it's going to return the result in JSON format. So if I increase this zoom, you can see now for the city London, we have the longitude, the latitude. These are objects. Then inside this object we have other objects as well. Then for this weather we have an array which consists of an object. So inside this weather key we have the ID, the main, the description, the icon. Then inside this main as well we have other data like the temperature, the pressure, the humidity, minimum temperature, maximum temperature. So if we go back to the open weather map, click on the open weather map. Okay, here we have it. Back to the API, current weather data. Now for JSON response, here as you can see the results being returned. Then we have other parameters like speed, direction, clouds. Then we have the country code, sunrise, sunset, ID, the name of the city. So what we are going to do is we are just going to return the data like the weather, the description, the temperature, the pressure, humidity, minimum temperature, maximum temperature. We can get the wind speed, the wind direction, the country code, the city name. So this is the data that is being returned. Now as you can see here, for this data key, it's returned an array. Then inside this array we have an object. Now as you can see, to access data inside arrays in JavaScript, you use indexes. Now this object is at index 0 because it's the only object inside, or the data inside the array. So if you want to access any data inside this object, you use this array with index 0 because this array has only one index. So you say weather with index 0, then dots, any of this data you want to get. Take for example, we want to get description. So the description is going to be weather, then in square brackets 0, which signifies the index 0, dots, description. Then it's going to return this data, clear sky. So if we try another city, let's try another city like Madrid. Now we can see country. It's returning the country code and the city name. Then for description we have moderate rain. Then we have the icon. We have the temperature and other data. So we are going to see how to access all of this data. Then if you go back to the API, down here where we have the same applies for XML. If you want to return the data for XML, we can just change the mode to XML mode. It's going to return in this format. Then we can access the data, all of this data, using these parameters. Then we click on this list of weather condition codes. We can open it in another tab. Right here inside this we have weather icons associated with every weather information. If you go back inside this objects, we have an icon. Here we just have the code. But what we are going to do later is we are going to return the image. So as you can see, we have the image associated with every weather information. So instead of just having this or retrieving this icon, we are going to retrieve the image itself. So we are going to display the image itself. And to display the image, we use this link. We are going to do that later. So as we can see, we have all of this and we have the data being returned. So what we are going to do in the next video is we are going to start working on the jQuery that will enable us to return these results and display on our page. So we'll start working on that in the next video.